tonight detailing the recent bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki as well as Japan's surrender. We will now take you to our insider regarding this matter.
Before we begin, here's a map that may help you better understand the rest of our broadcast.
Thank you very much. We will begin with the bombing of Hiroshima. In the early morning of August 6, 1945, the B-29 bomber named the Enola Gay took off and flew toward Japan. The bomber's primary target was the city of Hiroshima, located in Japan. Hiroshima's civilian population was almost 300,000 and had an important military center containing about 43,000 soldiers. The bomber, piloted by Colonel Paul Tibbets, flew low altitude on automatic pilot before climbing to 31,000 feet as it neared the target area in Hiroshima. At approximately 8:15 a.m. Hiroshima time, the Enola Gay released Little Boy, its 9,700-pound uranium bomb over the city. Tibbets described the scene like this, quote, "The city was hidden by that awful cloud, boiling up, mushrooming, terrible, and incredibly tall," unquote. The yield of the explosion was estimated at 15 kilotons, which is the equivalent of 15,000 tons of TNT. Those closest to the explosion died instantly, their bodies turned to black chalk. Nearby birds burst into flames in midair, and dry combustible materials such as paper instantly ignited as far away as 6,400 feet from ground zero. Less than 10% of the buildings in the city survived without any damage, and the blast wave shattered glass in the suburbs 12 miles away. The most common first reaction of those who were indoors, even miles from ground zero, was that their building edges suffered a direct hit by a bomb. Numerous small fires erupted throughout the city simultaneously all around, and they soon merged into one firestorm, creating extremely strong winds that blew towards the center of the fire. The firestorm eventually engulfed 4.4 square miles of the city, killing anyone who had not escaped in the first minutes after the attack. Some 70,000 people probably died as a result of the initial blast, heat, and radiation effects. This includes about 20 American airmen being held as prisoners in the city. And we'll continue our broadcast by moving on to the bombing of Nagasaki. The next break in weather over Japan was 3 days after the attack on Hiroshima. The plutonium bomb, nicknamed Fat Man, was rushed into readiness to take advantage of this window. No further orders were required for the attack. Captain Sweeney discovered, due to a minor malfunction, that he would not be able to access his reserve fuel. The aircraft next had to orbit the city of Yokohama after almost an hour in order to rendezvous with its two escort B-29s, one of which never did arrive. The weather had been reported as satisfactory earlier in the day over Kokura Arsenal, but by the time the B-29s finally arrived, the target was obscured by smoke and haze. Kokura no longer appeared to be an option, and there was only enough fuel on board to return to the secondary airfield in Okinawa, making one hurried pass as they went over their secondary target, the city of Nagasaki. At the last moment, the bombardier dropped a bomb over Nagasaki at 11:02 a.m. at an altitude of 1,650 feet. Fat Man exploded over Nagasaki. The yield of the explosion was estimated at 21 kilotons, 40% greater than that of the Hiroshima bomb. In general, though Fat Man exploded with greater force than Little Boy, the damage at Nagasaki was not as great as it had been at Hiroshima. The hills of Nagasaki, its geographic layout, and the bomb's detonation over an industrial area all helped shield portions of the city from the weapon's blast, heat, and radiation effects. The explosion affected a total area of approximately 43 square miles. Of the 52,000 homes in Nagasaki, 14,000 were destroyed, and 5,400 more seriously damaged. Only 12% of the homes escaped unscathed. Despite the absence of a firestorm, numerous secondary fires erupted throughout the city. The best estimate is 40,000 people died initially, with 60,000 more injured. Prior to the atomic attacks on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, elements existed within the Japanese government that were trying to find a way to end the war. In June and July 1945, Japan attempted to enlist the help of the Soviet Union to serve as an intermediary in negotiations. No direct communication occurred with the United States about peace talks, but American leaders knew of these maneuvers because the United States for a long time had been intercepting and decoding many internal Japanese diplomatic communications. From these intercepts, the United States learned that some within the Japanese government advocated outright surrender. A few diplomats overseas cabled home to urge just that. However, many within the Japanese government were extremely reluctant to discuss any concessions, which would mean that a negotiated peace to them would only amount to little more than a truce with the Allies agreed to stop attacking Japan. After 12 years of Japanese military aggression against China and over 3.5 years of war with the United States, American leaders were reluctant to accept anything less than a complete Japanese surrender. However, today the war is officially ended, August 15, 1945, with the United States recognition of the Japanese surrender. This officially ends our special news segment. I'm Eli Springer. Good night, everyone.